so gaudy. So gaudy. So gaudy. Gaudy stats. Gaudy stats. Gaudy stats. Good God, that's gaudy.
What team are you most excited for this year?
Oh my God, dude. It's a tough question. I can't wait to see what happens with the Lakers. I'm so intrigued.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah.
It's going to be really fun to watch. Like the whole Westbrook LeBron interplay. And I actually like a lot of the moves they made. I like all these guards they picked up, the shooting guards like Malik Monk and all these. I love Kendrick Nunn. I mean, there's a lot of people hating on them. They do have some old guys, but they have, that Taylor Horton Tucker, and they have some young guys to balance it out. And I don't know, man. I think they're going to be fucking good. And they have those big guys back. They have like the same kind of big guys that they had for their championship a couple years ago. And as long as LeBron can stay healthy and AD can stay, is healthy for the playoffs, fuck, dude. I mean, what do you think? I think they're going to be. I mean, it's not a take, but I think they're going to could be the best team in the league. Even give Brooklyn a run for the money, who I think is completely cursed. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Brooklyn just might not have Kyrie for like 60% of their games this year because, Andrew Wiggins got vaccinated this week, right? Because he was like, fuck it, man, I'm not going to miss most of the season. I'm going to fucking play basketball. I'll get vaccinated. But, Kyrie is absolutely the kind of galaxy brain motherfucker who will be like, fuck it, I guess I'm going to retire and just not play basketball again or go play somewhere where they don't care if he's vaccinated. Like Kyrie's playing in Russia now, and okay. And so,
some kind of a basketball samurai just traveling the world.
Yeah. And we're Kyrie just keeps signing 10-day contracts for teams without vaccine mandates. And he's going to play for 11 teams this year, and whatever. So I don't know. I mean, Brooklyn, they should be really good, but if that's going to be a problem, who knows? And
they have a ton of talent. They have a ton of talent. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, they were one gigantic clown foot toe away from winning the championship last year, probably. So,
I don't know. I don't know.
Bar, and I was you don't think they would have beaten Phoenix?
If it was just Durant, see, because at first I was like, if it was just Durant and a hobbled Harden, I mean, Harden probably would have healed up a little bit. But Durant had a quote recently. He said that he was putting so much energy into those games against the Bucks that he doesn't think he could have kept it up throughout the rest of the playoffs. And that's kind of what my thought was kind of watching him and the usage. And man, I don't really trust his body for this whole coming up year. I think he's, he played in the Olympics, he played all those minutes in the playoffs. I don't know, man. I got to look into the betting situation here because I need to put down some money on these Brooklyn odds are kind of out of control, and I'm not buying it. I don't know why. I see the worst possible scenario for them, but I could be completely wrong. We'll see. I just don't trust, as you said, Kyrie is a huge wild card. James Harden is amazing. He's one of the best offensive players of all time, but in the playoffs, he's time and time again not performed well late in games. So it's honestly I think their team has a lot of flaws and a lot of question marks, but they're also super deep. I mean, they have Marcus Aldridge, he's their seventh man or something. They have Blake Griffin. And Blake Griffin still has a little bit of pop left. He's obviously far removed from his peak, but they have a really good rookie. I forgot his name, but he's a microwave scorer off the bench. They have Joe Harris. I mean, so I feel stupid hating on them so hard. But I do think there are some serious question marks with their stars. If Durant's healthy, obviously he's fucking incredible, but it's a lot to ask of a guy who's, a year and a half, 2 years removed from a ruptured Achilles to come back and, be healthy the entire season. So We'll see, man. But honestly, I say all that, but I'd be overjoyed if it was the Nets and the fucking Lakers in the finals. That would be awesome. But I'm also excited to see what happens with the Heat, like with Lowry and those guys. Those guys are being completely dismissed. It's like, oh yeah, the Heat, like oh that was cute, the Lowry signing. I mean, what do you think? I think they're going to be fucking awesome, and like they're gonna get in the ass of the Nets if they play them in the playoffs. They have a ton of firepower, still have a lot of shooting. If Hero can become decent, like 80% of what he was in the bubble when he like went in fuego, did like a Steph Curry impression, they're gonna be fucking good. What are your thoughts on them?
I completely forgot that Kyle Lowry was on the Heat. I did know that at some point, and then that information left my brain until just now.
Glad to refresh you.
But yeah, they're going to be good. I don't, if you told me that the Heat were going to be the team that played in the finals from the East, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Milwaukee.
See, you're in the minority. You're in the minority about the Heat, though, with that take. I mean, because everyone's just like, oh, it's going to be Milwaukee or Brooklyn. I'm like, dude, a reloaded Heat team refreshed against Milwaukee. That's going to be a tough series. I love Milwaukee. I love me some Giannis, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously really good, and maybe this is a year where they sort of coast a little bit because it's like, hey, we just won a championship, we can chill out, and it was a short off season and whatever. I'm also, but I think Miami, like I just said, I wouldn't be shocked if Miami won the East, right? Like,
yeah,
they're not my prediction, but I wouldn't be shocked, and that's like those three teams are the three teams that wouldn't shock me. Hell, if you told me Boston won the East because like Jason Tatum just became one of the 5 best players in the league, I'd be like, all right, I guess I can see that happening.
Dude, he's so fucking good, man. God.
Yeah. And if you told me the Sixers won the East, then I'd tell you to lay off whatever drugs you're on. But
I was gonna say, dude. So okay, on the Boner scale from 1 to 10, 10 being like, you have to go to the hospital, you have priapism. If the Sixers like start the year off on like a crazy win streak, like 12-2 or something, what level are you at on the Boner scale?
Is Joel Embiid just destroying people?
Yeah, Joel Embiid's destroying people. Tyrese Maxey he's averaging like 25 and 5. Danny Green shooting like 45% from 3. They're just like, you know what, Ben Simmons, fuck you. We're going to just destroy people now. And we don't need you. And we're going to go like 15-3 to start the season.
So you saying Maxey going off was what I needed to hear. If that happens, then I will, like a fucking idiot, be all in back on the Sixers because I refuse to learn from my mistakes when it comes to Philadelphia sports teams. So, because I've been rewarded just often enough, twice, to be like, oh yeah, it's going to be better this time. So,
well, this might be what they need, man. This might be like the shot in the ass, whatever they say, like that. This might be the kick in the pants they need. The Ewing theory, Bill Simmons' old theory. I mean this is not completely that, because that would be like Joel Embiid, basically, be a better version of that. But it's kind of like that in a way. I hope it happens. Honestly, I really hope. I hope they're like, fuck this shit. We're gonna play our best ball, and I hope that happens. But I want to hear how excited would you be? 1 to 10.
Probably like an 8. I'd still be somewhat guarded. I mean, I've been down this road before.
Yeah.
So,
No,
they were the freaking 1 seed last year, man. Like,
yeah. I mean, if you think about it, that
they were going to win the championship.
Like, so looking back, that loss to the Hawks was embarrassing.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to pour
remarkable.
like gasoline on your fire. I'm just saying
No, it's fine.
it's embarrassing, man. Like they were the one seed. The Hawks. I mean, Trae Young was amazing in the playoffs. He definitely leveled up. And Herder. My God, Herder was just incredible. Especially that game 6. He was fucking incredible. Jesus Christ. But
Yeah, but they blew 2 giant fucking leads at home. There's no excuse.
oh, there's no
And
excuse. Embiid was
and
he's
I don't.
banged up, but no excuse, man. I mean, he was hard. He was horrible in the end of some of those games. Like he looked out of shape. Just you know, laboring up and down the court. It was hard to watch, honestly.
Yeah, that game 7 and that series in general is probably a top 3 embarrassing Philadelphia loss of my lifetime. There's a lot to choose from there, Ben. So, it's like the Eagles NFC Championship game to the Buccaneers in 2002. I guess that game occurred.
Oh, wow.
That game occurred in January of 2003, but they lost at home to the team that went on to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then the next year they lost to the fucking Jake Delhomme Panthers. Now, I was studying abroad and didn't actually see that game, so I don't have a lot of personal trauma with that. I remember going to the school internet the next day and checking ESPN.com and seeing that the Eagles lost and just being like, typical. But then 3 weeks later they signed Terrell Owens and I was back in. I was like, oh boy, here we go, because I'm a fucking idiot. And so,
well, you had reason to be excited though. They were fucking awesome with Terrell Owens.
Yeah, they were really good. Just not quite as good as the Patriots. But you can cut that part out. I don't want Kemp to hear it. So, but yeah, I mean, this Hawks loss was certainly the worst Sixers loss I can remember. I mean, when they lost in the finals, nobody cared. Everyone expected them to lose. And, the Phillies have had a playoff series here and there they weren't supposed to lose that they did, but whatever. I mean, they won a World Series, and so it's fine. And yeah, I mean, it was disgraceful, and I'm glad that the Ben Simmons era in Philadelphia is over. I'm a little sad for what it could have been, but
yeah,
if you get 5 years in your career and we're all going, yeah, we should have drafted Brandon Ingram, that's not good. So,
well, I will say, I think the Ben Simmons hate is gone. You could argue it's going a little bit too far because we've talked about it before. When he's the number one guy in the team and it's up and down the court and he's getting a 25, 11, and 12 with 3 steals and 3 blocks, and it's in that scenario, he is such a dynamic player, and he's, he could helm a team. I honestly think. I mean, I'm not sure what the ceiling is for that team. Probably first round playoff exit or something. But he is that talented. The issue is, the playoff potential with that kind of team and that kind of player. As you said, it's just if he's scared to shoot, he was scared to take it. He was scared to dunk on a much smaller player, right? Wasn't it Trae Young? No, it was Thibault who was on his hip, I think, and Trae Young was coming over and he passed away. I mean, that's just a little microcosm of his struggles to shoot. But, mentally, if he clears some of those hurdles and he, as you mentioned, if he becomes a decent shooter, he's got all the physical tools. It's just, but I just think that I think maybe the pendulum has swung a little too far to he sucks. I mean, honestly, I might take him over Brandon Ingram for his defensive skills and his, if you played him as a power forward or a center, even a small ball center, Draymond Green type, he could wreak havoc, honestly. But
we talked about this 45 minutes ago. The hate has not gone too far in Philadelphia. He's never going to play here again. Nobody wants him to ever play here again, and that's fine. We're all going to move on. And if he ends up
no, I mean for another team. I don't mean in Philly. I know he's out in Philly, but for another team.
He's going to play in the NBA for at least 10 more years, and that's fine. And if he ends up shooting a lot, then he's going to be one of the 15 best players in the NBA. And if that happens, then Philadelphia will have an all-time villain, which is all we really wanted, and we'll still be happy.
Oh
By
God,
happy, by happy, I mean brutally angry and depressed and throwing things. But that's us in our element, so it's fine.
So
you know,
what is the atmosphere going to be like when he comes back to Philly? Jesus,
it's going to be all time. It's good. I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if his first game back he fucking fakes an injury. So,
dude,
because it's going to be like, we haven't had crowds in a couple of years, and like Philadelphia has not had someone to truly hate in a long time. Like it's been, I don't even know. I mean, McNabb came back with Washington, but we didn't really care. They weren't any good. And like we didn't, a lot of people didn't like Donovan, but that was like a vocal minority, honestly. And his existence has not aged well, but that's neither here nor there. Like the last villain I can truly remember in like Philadelphia sports is like Kobe when he said he was going to kill us in the finals or whatever, but then he like did, and then that was that. And then, I mean, JD Drew is the guy that I think of, right, in all-time history. And I think Ben Simmons might get more heat than JD Drew did. I mean, they threw batteries at him. So, I don't know if they're not going to throw things at Ben Simmons, but he's going to get booed really, really lustily for like the rest of his career when he plays in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they didn't. I agree, and he's going to deserve it. And I feel like the clutch guys and him, they just didn't play it correctly. I don't want to talk about Ben Simmons anymore, but I feel like just in terms of public relations and shit, they've opened up a can of worms for Ben Simmons. I feel like he's going to be hated in Philly. People around the NBA just making fun of him constantly. You go to his Instagram and it's just all the comments are like making fun of his shot, making fun of him being scared to go to Philly and all sort of stuff. It's probably all Sixers fans, but I mean he's just getting piled on, and I think the smarter thing to do would have just been to request a trade forcefully, come back to Philly, put on like a good face and just keep like, be a gentleman about it and just grin and take it. But instead, like he's just created so much drama. But let's stop fucking talking about him. What about you, man? Is there a team that you're looking forward to seeing this year?
So, yes, and that team is the Golden State Warriors.
Oh my God! Of course. How could I not? Yeah.
Because
Klay.
they're like, look, I'll be honest. Like, I never became a Warriors fan, but I definitely got sucked into like Steph in 2015, right?
Oh, everybody did.
And Klay, not to take anything away from him too. And Draymond was not fun in the way that those two are, but he was certainly, a compelling character. And one of my very good friends is from like the Bay Area and has been a Warriors fan his entire life. And like when they became really great, like he was obviously like super into it. And like him and his buddy wrote a song that like went viral, and like he was on like the local news and shit. And I remember going out to visit him, like, so right before the Warriors' first playoff game, when the year they won their first championship, they were going to be playing the Hornets with Anthony Davis. And like he texted me at like midnight on Wednesday, and I didn't see it till Thursday at 5 a.m, and was like, "Hey, you want to come to the Warriors game on Saturday?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And I went. Like I bought a $600 flight to fucking San Francisco, and like hung out with him for the weekend, and went to the Warriors game and saw Steph drop like 28 in game 1 in a fucking packed, crazy arena. Wow. And it was just awesome. And like, and then the next year they went fucking nuclear and won like 73 games. And that was the game where Steph I think it was against Oklahoma City, right? Like went absolutely crazy in February and hit like that 37-footer to win the game or whatever. And then Klay did what he did in Game 6 and ruined the Westbrook and Durant relationship forever.
That game was so incredible. Yeah, that Game 6 was like
LeBron,
a work of art.
They lost to LeBron in what I consider probably the the greatest 3-minute stretch of basketball I've ever seen in the end of that series. And if LeBron had dunked that ball, I think that Trump would not have become president. I think that would have changed the course of world history forever. But I'm getting off on a bit of a galaxy brain tangent there. I'm turning into Kyrie Irving. But the Warriors are fun as hell, and I want Steph and Klay back, and I think they're going to be back, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the number one thing I'm looking forward to is Klay, and I hope that he is there's these, you think of it like the triumvirate with Steph, Klay, and Draymond, and it's when they're all three in their little positions, they become so fucking powerful. It's then the generator turns on, and it's like a true flux capacitor. It's a true engine, a true they have to have all three for it to be this beautiful game. And if he can just come back healthy, if he can be 85% of what he was, just if he's saying he won't be able to guard the team's best wing, team's best shooting guard, and all that stuff, that's okay, Klay. If you can just offensively shoot 42% from three on a high volume, and stretch, be able to elongate, widen the court. Because if Klay's over there in the corner or on the wing, that just changes everything for their offense. It's gonna open up so much. So, by all accounts, he's shooting amazingly. He looks really healthy right now, in their open gyms and stuff. Because I remember last year, that was almost such a freak accident, and it was so depressing. But dude, I'm totally with you, man. Him being healthy would be the most feel good story ever, and I hope he wins comeback player of the year. That would be awesome.
Yeah, he's one of the most likable superstars in the NBA. So is Steph Curry, for that matter.
Yeah,
and they're fun as hell, man. It's Klay scores 37 points in a quarter. That's the kind of shit that basically no one can do, and and he did it on 12 shots. That's the kind of stuff that I really like about basketball, because I like seeing guys do stuff that just can't even be replicated on a lower scale in a pickup game. And it's okay, yeah, this is why you're in the NBA and I'm sitting on my couch, among many other reasons. But
exactly,
Klay Thompson is just fun as hell, and Steph Curry's fun as hell. And those Warriors teams, even with I didn't hate them with Durant. I certainly wasn't rooting for them, but it was oh yeah, this is incredible basketball. But there was a level of purity before Durant got there that I think that they could sort of recapture, because they won't be this this hulking Death Star that of course they're going to win 70 games in the championship. I could still see Golden State winning 50 games next year if they're healthy, and that'd be fun as hell.
Did you say 60?
Let's do that again.
You said 60?
I said 50. 60 is a
50.
bit much.
Yeah, I think 60 is a bit much, but I think 50 is definitely in the realm. If they get the 6th seed or something like that, or the 5th seed, I mean, they could wreak havoc. With Klay rounding into form, it would just be so fun. Yeah, I agree. I loved the Harrison Barnes Warriors the most. When Durant went there, it was a stacked deck. It was weird. It was too much. It was still fun to watch every now and then, but it was fun to play fantasy basketball with those guys, because it was just the stats were insane. Draymond with crazy triple doubles, or 5 points, 17 assists, and 15 rebounds and 7 blocks, or just crazy. Because he was just racking up assist numbers, because surrounded by 3 of the best shooters of all time, and that just watching them all play together was almost an historic thing. It was just something. Some historical glitch that allowed them all to be on the same court, on the same team. It was just fucking crazy. But I agree. I like the purity of the, just them 3 together. And Jordan Poole, man, he's talk about a guy who's rising. He's going to hold down the fort until Klay comes back as their 2 guard. and he finished last year pretty hot. So he could be like a reasonable, a lesser facsimile of Klay until he comes back, and they're going to be a lot of fun. They have those young guys coming up. Wiseman might be kind of like a millstone, bringing them down a little bit, but they just won't play him if he is. What are you eating for breakfast these days when you get up so early?
I eat the same breakfast every day. 2 scrambled eggs with carnitas, fried Brussels sprouts, mushrooms, avocado, green chili, a little bit of sour cream. So
what?
Avocado.
It's such a gourmet breakfast. I love it.
I mean, I've gotten it down to a science at this point, and then I make lettuce wraps out of it. So.
That sounds delicious. So you eat a lot of avocado. So do I. Although it's not really a season for it now, but I bet they're still good there. And
yeah, I mean, they all come from Mexico, but they're not traveling very far to get here.
Yeah. That sounds fucking delicious, man.
Yeah, it's really good, and I eat it every day. I'm happy being a guy who doesn't take a single shot in a game we win, like chasing down loose balls and making passes. Or if you need me to shoot, I can shoot. And on my best days, I'm pretty good. And on my worst days, I know how to compensate.
Yeah.
But,
well, speaking of not taking a single shot, let's talk about Ben Simmons, the other Ben Simmons.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Another man with a very limited skill set. What he does well, he does very well, which is defense. And he's a great passer, super athletic, great rebounder for a point guard. I mean, he's really going to be a power forward. I think that's his next evolution, becoming like a Draymond type, not always handling the ball, but that's neither here nor there. You're a Philly native. I always love hearing your takes about Philly sports, and this whole entire time since the other Ben Simmons, since his saga began, I've thought of you often, and I want to know where your head's at right now, and I also want to know what are they saying back home in Philly about Ben Simmons?
Well, I don't live in Philadelphia, so I was back there for 5 weeks over the summer. I was there right after the playoff disaster. I was there for like the conference finals and the finals. That's when I was back home.
Yeah,
and I was hoping to see a team with a local superstar step up and win a championship, and that actually happened. It just wasn't Philadelphia. So good for Milwaukee. I'd like to give them a shout out. They earned it.
Yeah.
Giannis was incredible.
That was awesome.
I mean, pretty much everyone in Philadelphia has felt since the Hawks series that Ben Simmons can't play here anymore, and he feels that way too. So we're all in agreement. I was going to say that I don't wish him ill, and I don't as a person, but I also don't want to see him turn into one of the 10 best players in the league, because that's just going to make me feel worse. I know he could go somewhere and just fucking start shooting and not even be bad at it, and it's just going to be okay, fine. But what's truly remarkable about the Ben Simmons situation is that he saw Carson Wentz go, I'm going to be the biggest villain in Philadelphia sports in the last 10 to 15 years. And Ben Simmons was like, nah, I got this. And now nobody cares about Carson Wentz anymore. And that's kind of remarkable because Carson Wentz went out in a really shitty way and now nobody's even talking about it. So, that's the most impressive thing Ben Simmons did as an athlete. It was become more detestable than Carson Wentz in a 3-week span.
Can you just, as a quick aside, can you just refresh my and maybe others' memory of what Carson Wentz did? I'm besides sucking ass and being injured all the time, what else did he do?
Oh, you mean aside from that? Well, he was just a whiny little piss baby his last year. He's you drafted a quarterback in the second round, and he was terrible. And I was a Carson Wentz defender until last season because he was good. And then he stopped being good, which made his whininess, even though he wasn't really whining in public. It was just, I don't know. It's not all his fault. The front office of the Eagles is a mess. Carson Wentz, you play out his career 100 times with the Eagles, and from his personal standpoint, what happened to him, barring a career-ending injury, was basically like worst-case scenario. Like, as an Eagles fan, I'm fine with it because they won the Super Bowl, right? But, like,
Yeah.
for him, it's like he was playing like an MVP, got hurt, and then fucking Nick Foles comes in and wins the Super Bowl. And then Carson drags them to the playoffs again the next year, gets hurt again on like a dirty hit, and oh no, that was the next year after that, but gets hurt again, and like Nick Foles again wins a couple of games. Like, it just, he has my sympathy
bizarre.
in that regard, but he hasn't handled it well, and also he's anti-vax, so fuck him. So,
All right.
like, I'm pretty sure Ben Simmons was vaccinated at least. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't need to be because he's not going to be. He could not play for a few months here. Although, I don't know, for some reason I feel like the deal's gonna get done at some point. I mean, he's still a super valuable asset, and it's only a matter of time, I feel like. But it sounds like both sides are pretty dug in. But like, so what did you think of what Joel Embiid said? He basically was like, it's kind of disrespectful. But what do you think of his role in kind of the aftermath and some of his comments? Do you think he's handling it well? I know you're a fan of his. I think he's hilarious. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I do think he's absolutely one of the funniest guys in the NBA. But I personally didn't have a problem with what he said. But what do you think?
Oh, I'm fine with it. I mean, he's still mad they got rid of Jimmy Butler. And, like, in retrospect, maybe they fucking shouldn't have. And, that was a different front office, but, like, you had this fucking killer who could close games who fucking loved Joel Embiid.
And he's Philly. He's kind of like a guy made for Philly.
Well, yeah, and, that's sort of, you ask, what's wrong with Carson Wentz? And it's like, in Indiana, nothing. Carson Wentz, he's going to fit right in there where, the state food is mayonnaise. But in Philadelphia, like, some people are cut out for Philadelphia and some people aren't. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily that there's, like, one specific personality type. Like, Philadelphia wants you to do two things in order: like us back and win. And Joel Embiid has done, like, the first thing perfectly and as much as he can for the second thing for the most part. And, like, Ben Simmons didn't really do either. And Carson Wentz did both for a while, and then it all went to shit, which, again, was not entirely his fault. But Jimmy Butler was definitely a guy who would have fit in well in Philadelphia, but he didn't want to play with Ben, and I don't think he wanted to play for Brett Brown. And at that point, the Sixers weren't going to be like, well, we were one shot away from possibly winning the championship. If the Toronto series goes a different way, let's blow it all up. And I don't blame them for that, but so they never got through to a guy who wouldn't fucking shoot the ball. And it's like, well, stop focusing on the thing he doesn't do well. You got to focus on what he does do well. But the thing he doesn't do well is the most important part of basketball. So,
yeah,
and he's still very good, and he's very valuable, and at some point they're going to trade him. But, like, you think about it in baseball, like, there are plenty of guys who spend their entire careers in the minors who are great fielders who can't fucking hit. Because if you can't hit, you don't make it to the majors. Because if you can't hit, you're just not that important. It doesn't matter how good you are as a fielder. If you can't hit, I mean, pitchers aside, obviously. If you can't make runs happen, you aren't valuable enough. And in basketball, it's a little bit different because Ben can still create points, right? He can pass.
Yeah.
He can offensive rebound. But, like, really good Tony Allen isn't the second best player on a championship team. So, that guy's a valuable NBA player, but they'll get something for him. You mentioned it's sort of like both sides are dug in. It's kind of remarkable. It's one of these rare situations where nobody has any leverage. So, like the Sixers are like, "Whoa, we want Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal," and everyone else is like, "That's obviously not going to happen." Here's a Sacramento poo-poo platter. And it's like, no, we're not going to do that.
D'Angelo Russell.
Right. We don't want D'Angelo Russell. If he were good, we'd take him. But, I don't know. I mean, I said personally after the Hawks series, I was like, I'm out on the Sixers until Ben Simmons is gone. I didn't realize it'd be quite this soon, but I'm also not that surprised. Like, I don't think he's traded before opening day, but probably before Christmas.
It's just
someone will take him. Some team that can score. Will
I
take
agree.
him,
I agree.
but-
I think some team will be like, what are we doing? Like, this guy was supposed to be like the next LeBron. He still has room for growth, although that's debatable. I would say maybe not. I mean, but guys add things to their games later in their careers. I'm not completely ruling it out, but the one thing I've never liked about him is just kind of like the I'm too cool for school kind of thing. Like, he's so concerned with like looking and being cool, and that's been mentioned. I think Jackie McMullen was saying like that's why he doesn't want to shoot threes is because he's afraid to fail publicly at doing it. Like, so he's just a kind of a weird guy, and there's really like no self-awareness. Like, he just doesn't like he humiliated himself so horribly in the playoffs, and then he turns around and he's like, you guys don't treat me right, you guys are disrespecting me, all this. It's just like, dude, like you took a shit on the court in front of like millions and millions, perhaps billions of people, and now you're trying to flip this around and like point fingers at Doc Rivers for saying like, I can't answer the question when he was asked, can you win a championship with Ben Simmons as your point guard? It's like, you're getting mad at him for that and getting mad at Embiid for kind of being like, well, yeah, like we could have had 2 points instead we had 1 or something. Like, why doesn't Ben Simmons look in the mirror and just be like, I fucked up, I'm going to do better next year? Like, he's just it's kind of infuriating as a indifferent observer, although maybe I'm not indifferent because I have called him a psychopath because he just seems like one. I don't know why. It's just a pure just looking at him, like, the guy just looks like a serial killer sometimes. I don't ask me why, but but anyways, yeah, I just don't. What's with the lack of self-awareness? Like, where's the accountability? I just don't understand.
Well, I can't. I mean, I can't really answer that. I don't know him. The best theory I have, I guess, is that he's 25. Like, his brain is just now forming the parts that can think about long-term consequences, and maybe getting fucking traded to Sacramento for a year or two will make him go, shit, maybe I was wrong. And maybe it won't. I don't know. He's the first overall pick in an NBA draft. Guys like that don't ever have to really embrace reality. So
yeah, but am I crazy? Doesn't he like? Don't you get like serial killer vibes a little bit from him sometimes? Am I completely?
A little bit. It's mostly the eyes. Yeah.
It's just weird. I don't know what it is. Maybe I hate to like be so, just form an opinion about somebody based purely on their behavior and their appearance, but he just something's off with that guy. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're going to be able to get for him, honestly. Like, I don't know what he's going to fetch. The Timberwolves are the most interested, and so yeah, it's going to be like D'Angelo Russell, and I mean, I don't even know, man. Like, I got to look at their roster because, let's see, I'm thinking of who else? Oh, Malik Beasley. Yeah. So like maybe they could do that. I mean, honestly, Indiana maybe with Brogdon and LeVert. I mean, what would you be interested in? Like, have you heard of any offers that you'd be like, oh yeah, I would like that? Or is there anything that you've heard that's realistic that you would like?
So as far as the entire Ben Simmons saga goes at this point, if you told me that, like, I just would never have to listen to anything about it again, I think that might be an offer I'd take. Like, from a basketball standpoint, obviously I want Damian Lillard, but that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal would be great too, except he's also fucking unvaccinated. And I don't. The Pacers have Malcolm Brogdon's good, or is Victor Oladipo still? He's on the Rockets now, right? See, I don't even.
No, he's
know.
with the Heat. He's with the Heat.
Okay. I have no idea what's going to happen. And as a relatively casual NBA fan, I think I know plenty about the NBA, but I couldn't pick Malik Beasley out of a lineup, And I know who he is. I know he plays basketball for the Timberwolves and that he's reasonably good. But you're asking me who are they going to get? I have no idea, man. I don't even know. I don't even know if I can name 3 players on the Wizards, other than Beal and I guess Rui Hachimura is on that team, and is Davis Bertans still
Kyle
on the
Kuzma? Kyle Kuzma's there now. You got Bertans.
I have no idea Kyle Kuzma was on the Wizards.
You got a former Louisville Cardinal, Montrezl Harrell.
I didn't even know Trey was on the Wizards. When did that Lakers trade? Oh, is that part of the Russell Westbrook trade?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wizards master stroke. It was a master stroke. They were able to get off of the.
After watching the finals, I did not partake much in the NBA offseason. Obviously, I heard about Westbrook getting traded, but I was I can't do too much more of this because
hey, I understand.
Football season's starting, and I need to get mad about the Eagles. So,
Yeah. No, we'll get to the Eagles because I have some questions for you about. I mean, it mainly revolves around Jalen Hurts. I'm a pretty big fan. I'll just ask you right now, where do you stand on Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, we don't need to discuss Ben Simmons any further. I'm done with him. I hope they get something good for him. I will enjoy watching the Sixers more when he was gone. I have never liked watching him because he's probably the most frustrating Philadelphia athlete I've ever had to put up with.
I mean, people have been talking about him ad nauseum too. It's been constant Ben Simmons talk, and he doesn't deserve it. Honestly, he's crazy looking, and he's really weird, and he thinks he's the coolest guy in the world, and he's not. And he was an embarrassment in the playoffs. Listen, I'm not some sort of basketball guru. I'm not a former coach. I'm a former street baller. Okay, I'm a former pickup basketball guy. But all I know is he embarrassed the city of Philadelphia. He embarrassed himself, and then he turns around and tries to act like he did. He's like the second coming of Michael Jordan or LeBron or something. He should be looking in the mirror. He should be apologizing constantly, publicly, to Philadelphia, the city, and to his teammates. And instead, he's behaving like a spoiled little brat. And I've had enough of him. Okay, let's just stop talking about him. Let's take him and throw him in the garbage can, and let's move on to the Eagles with their young stud quarterback, I would say, even though they're losing in some really weird ways, in some kind of pathetic ways. What is your feeling about Jalen Hurts? Give me your honest opinion. Strip away any bullshit. Just what do you think about Jalen Hurts?
Well, you said they're losing in some really weird and pathetic ways. I don't know, are you referring to the Niners game? Because they just got their asses kicked by Dallas and Kansas City, and those are just better teams. So, those are 2 of the 5 best offenses in the NFL, and the Eagles' defense is bad.
Yeah, I think I was referring to the Niners game. That was weird. And also, honestly, watching some of these games, it's really strange because they seem like their offense is like a caged animal. It's just they have so much talent, and it's weird what's going on with Miles Sanders. Why aren't they force feeding him more? It seems like he's not getting a lot of snaps. I like Kenneth Gainwell. Don't get me wrong. I think he's great. I love pass catching running backs. You know that. But I'm curious what's going on with their offense. It seems some head scratching moves. And also, although I do like Jalen, he seems to be not as sharp when he should be on certain parts of the game where it's he needs to complete a pass or there's a lot of pressure on him. He's not always up to the task. He's also very young. This is his what? He hasn't even played 16 games yet. So he's going to make his mistakes. But what are your thoughts, man? I don't want to take up all the airspace.
You said he hasn't played 16 games. I mean, this is he's essentially a rookie, right? He
Yeah.
got drafted during COVID. There was no training camp. He played like 4 games last year. He's dealing with a new coach, new offensive coordinator, a lot of turnover on the offensive line due to injuries already. I mean, they were missing 4 starters on Sunday already from the first week, I think. And it's, that makes it hard. He's obviously talented. And, you look at what he did in college and, big moments aren't going to frighten him, which is a good thing because that happens to some quarterbacks or, some guys who think they're point guards even though they're power forwards. But, do I think that he's, necessarily going to be the Eagles franchise quarterback for the next decade? Who knows, but I'm not ruling that out, which is already a good sign. But I definitely thought that was Carson Wentz 3 years ago. So what the fuck do I know?
I mean, but Carson Wentz was good though. I mean, he was, as you said, he was leading them to, here, I'm going to pull up the records. I'm curious now. But they had some great years with him, and you're right. He just kept getting hurt at the end of the year, which is kind of bizarre. And so there's a reason why you liked him, and I remember when there was we had some discussions about long term, see the quarterback of the future, and you were completely on board, and I think that was kind of the general consensus. I mean, he was he put up some MVP, at least one season that was borderline MVP. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble finding this, what I'm looking for here. But
he was the front runner for the MVP in 2017. They were 11-2 when he got hurt.
Yeah.
And they finished 13-3, and they finished as the 1 seed. Or they finished 12-4, but they finished as the 1 seed either way. And
yeah, they were 13-3 and 17-18.
Yeah, well, they don't win the Super Bowl without Carson that year because they don't get the 1 seed. So and they don't win the Super Bowl without getting the 1 seed. So, he deserved the ring that he got in 2017, even if he wasn't the winning quarterback in that game. And then in 2018, they had so many injuries, and he was still good. And then he got hurt at the end of the season, and Nick Foles won a playoff game and almost won another one, and I think that fucked with his head. In 2019, he threw for 4,000 yards without having a single receiver go over 500. Wow. He had 2 tight ends go over 500, but not a single receiver. And then in 2020, it all went to shit. He got knocked out of the playoffs in 2019 by a dirty hit by Jadeveon Clowney. Fucking, as Wentz was falling to the ground, Clowney headbutted him on going to the ground. Not even a penalty called. He might have been fined retroactively. That knocked him out of the game, and fucking Josh McCown had to come in, and they lost. And that was it. That was the end of anything good. He was just bad in 2020. He threw a ton of interceptions, and then Hurts came in, and Hurts looked pretty good. He had that game against the Packers last year where I think he won, right? And he looked good doing it, and he's mobile, and he's got a good arm, and they finally look like they have some receiving talent. I mean, everyone, shit on them last year for drafting Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson, and that's fair at this point. But also Jalen Reagor is not terrible, and Devontae Smith looks like he's actually good. And so, and you mentioned Miles Sanders. I don't know what's going on there, man. He ran the ball 3 fucking times against Dallas.
Bizarre.
And I understand they were behind. And actually, no, they ran the ball 3 times. He only ran it twice. So I don't know what Nick Sirianni's doing. I don't know how long he's going to be the head coach of the Eagles. Things started off well and have not gone very well since. Now, again, they've had some tough opponents. The 3 teams they lost to very well might be playoff teams, Yeah. Two of them almost certainly will be, and we'll see about the Niners. If the Niners are not a playoff team, it's not because they're bad. It's because their division's really good. So,
and the Eagles' division's really weak, so things could flip pretty fast.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are still, I think, the second best team in their division. Who knows how good Washington actually is with their with Taylor Heineke, trying to make the football team great again. But
pulling games out of his ass.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously not bad. But who knows? I don't believe in Washington. Why would I? And the Giants are obviously terrible. And Dallas is actually good. So,
well, the Eagles actually have a pretty difficult schedule coming up. I hate to be the one to break this to you. You might have already seen it, but they're at Carolina, Carolina looks pretty good. They're at home versus Tampa. Then they're at Las Vegas. Las Vegas looks pretty good. At Detroit, that should be a win. Then they're at home against the Chargers, who look awesome. Then they're at Denver, which should be a really difficult game. They'll probably lose that game unless Drew Lock's still the quarterback. Then they probably win. Then they're at home versus the Saints. That should be a tough game. At New York. New York does not look like a pushover, although that's a winnable game. Then they're at the Jets. That's probably a win. And they have Washington at home, New York, Washington, at Washington, and then they have Dallas at home. I mean, they could win those last 4 games, but
I mean, what you just described is probably 6 or 7 wins, which is about what I expected. Like, the Eagles weren't supposed to be good this year. They got the worst cap situation in the league, and there's talent there, but their defense is aging and they have a lot of holes to fill. So I don't really care that they're not good this year. I just want Jalen Hurts to look decent, and he has so far. He's made a couple mistakes, but he's also made a couple incredible throws. He's hell on wheels in terms of trying to catch him when he scrambles. You know, he's not quite on the same level as Lamar and Kyler Murray, but he's not that far off.
I agree, and I don't understand like some of the weird stuff before the season, how they were like, oh, should we draft a quarterback, and like all this kind of uncertainty. I would have appreciated a vote of confidence for Jalen Hurts. Like I think he did enough towards the end of last year, I think, to earn that. And like there's just like this weird kind of shakiness and rumors coming out of Philly about, is he good enough to be the starter? Should they trade up? Should they, and then the whole thing about didn't they bring in Minshew? They traded for Minshew? Yeah, like
they're backup to Joe Flacco and Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, it's just kind of like odd. Like, why you have the statuesque Flacco? Why would you? I don't know. Maybe it's like insurance. I mean, Minshew is a pretty. I wouldn't say decorated, but he's like a high quality backup. So maybe that's why.
Let me address a couple of these things. You mentioned why they were sort of not giving him the vote of confidence. If I had to guess, I was going to say if they made the rest of the league think they liked one of those quarterbacks, then that would make somebody pay more for that 6th pick, which is what happened, right? So it's like, I got to up my offer to the Eagles because they want Trey Lance or whatever, or Justin Fields, and I got to pay more for that pick. And I think they ended up getting the player they wanted all along, and that was Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Which is the player I wanted all along too. I have not been excited about an Eagles draft pick in like 20
I gotta
years.
say, man, it's not just because he's on my fantasy team, but I feel like just all the stuff I read about him, he seems like just a good dude, and he's like approaching everything the right way. Him and Jalen Hurts both, like the way they talk about, their play after they lose. It's no pointing fingers. It's just like we got to figure this out, and I love the positivity coming from both those guys.
Yeah, they clearly like each other and have history, and that's great. As for Minshew, I think that the Eagles really wanted to, like, from like a spiritual sense, exercise Carson Wentz, and so they were like, what is the anti-Carson Wentz in terms of like personality? Like, oh, okay, we're gonna get this guy to just be in our locker room and sort of act like a burning sage bundle, right? And just get that out of there. And you want to talk about somebody that Philadelphia will have no trouble embracing. That is Gardner Minshew.
See that I think what you said is so true. But on the flip side, just playing devil's advocate, isn't that kind of like a way to fuck with Jalen Hurts, like bringing in this guy who is like tailor-made for Philly to love? You have this like mutton chopped, mulleted, wild man as your backup quarterback, kind of looming over Jalen Hurts throughout the season. I don't know. Personally, I didn't like it, but the way you spin it, I kind of see it now. Kind of see it. The human incense burning. I get that, but I don't know.
So Jalen Hurts knows what it's like to be replaced by sort of like an upstart phenom, and he knows what that looks like, and that's not what Gardner Minshew is. So, like, Tua Tagovailoa as a freshman coming into the national championship game is not Gardner Minshew. And I don't think that he's threatened by the guy walking around the locker room with a mullet and a jockstrap. So, like, that's his buddy or whatever, you know? Like, that's the guy who's there to make sure the linemen have the beer they need, and, you know, it's fine. Like,
yeah, you know, actually, I think he
Gardner
might actually be his buddy because there's a quote he said, like, he accepted Minshew when he came in. Like, he said, like, you know, I wanted him to feel at home in the quarterback room. And so I think you might be onto something.
So Gardner Minshew is the guy who shows up to a lake house party and nobody knows whose friend he is, but within like an hour and a half, he's the most popular person there. So that's who Gardner Minshew is. It's like he's won 11 games of beer pong, but he's managed to include everyone. And like
he can still form a coherent sentence. He hasn't completely divulged or devolved into, you know, like spouting nonsense and vomiting all over himself.
Right. He goes to he leaves for a minute and he comes back with like 2 coolers full of beer, and you know he somehow produces a bunch of food at like 2 a.m. that Gordon eats all of, and you know it's fine. Like he's the guy who just like everyone likes and no one is threatened by. And if you need him to step up and do something for a couple of games, you could do a lot worse. So
it's true. As I said, he's like an amazing backup quarterback. Honestly, like, and he'll get his chance, a la Doug Flutie. He'll get his chance he'll have his shining moment, his moment of glory at some point in his career. Like, you know, the clouds will part, and he'll lead like a team to the playoffs. He'll have some playoff moments or something. I truly believe that. He's got too much. The mullet has too much power. He's got whatever he's got, that it quality. It's too powerful to be held down for long. And
I agree, but I'm not worried about it in Philadelphia. I would say that
no, it's going to happen somewhere else. Probably Buffalo.
You know, I was just going to say he's going to be the Buffalo Nick Foles someday. So Gardner Minshew is going to be the guy who, when Josh Allen gets hurt 3 years from now, goes on a playoff run and finally brings Buffalo that Super Bowl title.
And it's going to be hilarious because like he's like this little guy, and Josh Allen is this huge quarterback, and it's going to be funny seeing the juxtaposition. I can see it now. We have to talk this into reality. It has to happen.
Yeah, I would love that for a mutual friend of ours who would probably explode in joy if that were to occur. While going through a table.
Yeah, it'd be a beautiful thing. I can't get enough of the Buffalo Bills fans' antics before the games. I'm scrolling through Twitter, laughing my ass off every Sunday. It's just a joy. I kind of want to go to a game at some point. I think it'd be fun. Might get seriously injured, but it could be fun.
I would love to go to a Bills game someday. What's the line from Fight Club? Only after you've lost everything are you free to do anything? Is that it, basically? Like, that's just Bills fandom, right? Every Bills fan is part of Project Mayhem. So,
I thought it was like some kind of like political like commentary, like Rust Belt commentary, you know, like.
No,
like
I think
Buffalo,
Tyler Durden is just a Bills fan. That's why. That's what that whole movie's really about. And
I haven't seen that.
You've never seen Fight Club?
Oh, wait. I've seen Fight Club. I didn't know who that character's. I don't know the characters' names. And it's been
Tyler Durden is Brad Pitt.
It's been like 15 years since I've seen it, I think. When did it come out? Like 2001?
Oh, I think it was 98, actually.
Jesus Christ. I probably saw it in 99, so it's been like 22 years. I saw it when it came out, and I haven't seen it since, which is a shame. I should watch that ASAP. But I've just been mainly watching movies that are like not too heavy, not too dark lately. Been on like a, you know, rainbows and
If you
unicorns kick.
if you watch Fight Club and just watch it under the auspices that every character in there is a Bills fan, it'll make a lot of sense. Really and truly.
Oh god, it should make like a Fight Club Bills crossover T-shirt or something. It's got to be some kind of thing, some kind of angle. And I can't wait for the season. Charlotte's going to be fun to watch. There's a lot of fun League Pass teams. I'm excited. I'm also excited to see your Sixers. I hope Embiid just wreaks havoc as well.
Well, that makes two of us on the Embiid part. Not so much two of us excited about the Sixers. But hey, as I've stated several times already on this podcast / phone call, I'm a fucking idiot and I can easily be sucked back in. So
yeah, allow yourself to be sucked, Dan. Get sucked.
All right. Well, you're talking about Jordan Poole, and now you're making veiled references to Palacio. I think that's about as good a time as ever to call it a day.
All right, man. It's good talking to you.
Likewise, buddy. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So God, so God, Gaudy stats, Gaudy stats.